Welcome back. This is episode 5. From Ha-jun's struggle with his inner demons to a budding romance between Yeol and Yeon-do, the drama is as unpredictable as ever. Don't forget to like this video and subscribe to the channel so you never miss an update. Now, let's dive back into the chaos and uncover what happens next. Drunk on Instructor Nam's homemade wine, Yeon-do lays her head on the table and invites Yeol to do the same. Thinking she's outsmarted him, she suddenly sits up, expecting him to count like he usually does. But Yeol surprises her by saying, 1. I'm going to do it. He places his hand on her neck and leans in for a kiss, and Yeon-do closes her eyes. Later that night, Instructor Nam returns to find the Baek-ho and Real King kids completely drunk on her wine. She records them as proof and decides she can't send them home like this. Borrowing a van, she loads everyone up to take them back to school. On the ride, Yeon-do falls asleep on Yeol's shoulder again, which makes him smile. Meanwhile, Dong-jae notices Soo-ah looking sad and withdrawn. The van suddenly breaks down, and while Instructor Nam handles the tow truck, the kids wander off to find bathrooms or fresh air. Soon, Dong-jae realizes that Soo-ah is missing. Her bag and phone are still in the van, but she's nowhere to be seen. Ha-jun, remembering Soo-ah's earlier breakdown, runs off in search of her, looking deeply worried. Instructor Nam calls Teacher Yang for help. At first he refuses, but he later rushes to the scene when he realizes how serious it is. Meanwhile, the kids argue about what to do. Some suggest calling the police or leaving Soo-ah behind to avoid getting punished. Yeon-do stands up to them, calling them selfish and uncaring. Despite her hurt ankle, she insists on continuing to search for Soo-ah. While searching, Yeon-do twists her ankle again. Yeol teases her but ends up giving her a piggyback ride as they continue looking together. Ha-jun eventually finds Soo-ah near a quiet lake. She stares into the water and asks if he thinks it's cold. As she steps into the water, Ha-jun shouts for her to stop. Slowly, she turns back and walks toward him, looking fragile and lost. Ha-jun hands her his jacket, and they walk back together in silence. Eventually, everyone meets back at the van. Yeon-do and Yeol share a small smile, happy they found Soo-ah. The tense night ends with the group ready to return to school, a little closer than before. The kids barely make it back to school in time for classes. Teacher Yang looks just as nervous as the students as they sneak onto campus. To help them out, Instructor Nam distracts Principal Choi by performing an over-the-top dance routine. While she's busy, the kids run inside, but Yeon-do twists her ankle again and lets out a small cry. Yeol turns back to help her, grabbing her hand and guiding her inside. Afterward, Teacher Yang and Instructor Nam collapsed in relief, happy their plan had worked. The kids thank them for covering. But the celebration is cut short when a producer from 60 Minutes at Global News appears with a camera. He mentions reports of spec stacking and offers a deal, an interview in exchange for the footage he just captured. Later, in class, Yeon-do is distracted, replaying the almost kiss with Yeol in her mind. She can't stop staring at his lips. After class, she pulls him aside to ask what happened. Too shy to look him in the eye, she stammers her way through the question. Yeol, of course, teases her, batting his eyelashes and joking that she wishes they kissed. He leaves her even more confused about whether it happened or not. Meanwhile, the cheerleading team gathers for another meeting. Instructor Nam announces they'll elect a team president through a competition. Each side nominates a candidate, Yeon-do for Real King and Soo-ah for Baek-ho. The challenge? Each leader must choreograph a cheer routine, but with a twist. Yeon-do will work with Baek-ho and Soo-ah with Real King. Yeon-do, still distracted, barely registers the announcement. She's too busy Googling how to tell if someone kissed you. Outside, he recalls the night before with perfect clarity. He had leaned in for the kiss, only for Yeon-do to fall asleep on his shoulder. He chuckles to himself, whispering, "I was being serious." Meanwhile, Teacher Yang and Instructor Nam face the producer. They try to win him over with drinks, but he outdrinks them both. Instructor Nam resorts to dramatic crying, claiming she'll be ruined if the footage gets out. Her loud sobs attract the attention of nearby diners, including some scary-looking gangsters. Misunderstanding the situation, they threaten the producer and force him to hand over the tape, but he smugly reveals that he saved the original on his computer. Desperate, Teacher Yang offers to cooperate with the deal, an interview in exchange for the tape. The producer doesn't seem convinced and warns them to come back with a better offer. At school, Principal Choi is determined to find out who the whistleblower is. Teacher claims he has a lead on someone named Park Hyung-ja, and Principal Choi orders him to track them down immediately. The Real King team, now under Sua's temporary leadership, prepares for their first practice session. However, it's clear that none of them respect her authority and are unwilling to follow her lead. Things take an unexpected turn when Sua brings in a professional cheerleading team to teach them. The cheerleaders perform an incredible routine, leaving everyone stunned and impressed despite their initial resistance. Afterward, Sua confronts Dongjae about his fear of physical contact, telling him he has to overcome it if he wants to continue participating. She insists that she can't afford to lose the competition because of him. Meanwhile, Yeon-do faces her own struggles with the Bae-ko team. Unlike Real King, they're more interested in studying than practicing cheerleading. They make it clear that they don't care about helping her win the competition. While most of the team dismisses her efforts, Yeol appears conflicted, showing hints of sympathy for her situation. Elsewhere, Teacher Eam searches for Park Hyung-ja, a name he discovered in his investigation of the whistleblower. He finds her in the hospital, gravely ill. Listening to the nurses' conversations, he learns that her guardian is a teacher at Sevet High, further confirming his suspicions. Frustrated by Bae-ko's lack of interest, Yeon-do finds Ha-jun in the stairwell and asks him for help. When Yeol joins them, she tries to persuade him as well. Before they can discuss further, they overhear Principal Choi and Teacher Eim nearby. The two adults are talking about firing Teacher Yang, accusing him of being the whistleblower who exposed the school's corrupt practices. Caught eavesdropping, the three students are confronted by Principal Choi. She warns them not to speak to anyone about what they've heard. Shockingly, she specifically targets Ha-jun, using his father's abusive tendencies as leverage to keep him silent. Her cruel manipulation leaves the students stunned and scared. Later, Yeon-do argues that they need to help Teacher Yang, but both Yeol and Ha-jun are reluctant to act. Yeol warns her that taking a stand could lead to her expulsion and tells her to stay out of adult matters. However, Yeon-do refuses to back down, saying someone has to do the right thing. At the hospital, Teacher Yang notices a gift basket left by Teacher Im on behalf of Sevet High. Realizing the danger he's in, he decides to take action. He contacts the producer from 60 Minutes at Global News and offers all the evidence he has against the school, including documents on grade manipulation, bribery, and spec stacking. He begs the producer to leave the students out of it, offering to do the interview himself instead. Back at school, Principal Choi bans all students from speaking to the media. She warns that anyone who gives an interview will face expulsion. Despite the threat, Yeon-do is determined to speak up and protect Teacher Yang. Knowing this, Principal Choi orders Teacher Im to find any reason to expel Yeon-do before she can act. Yeon-do later sees Teacher Yang cleaning out his desk. Despite his cheerful demeanor, it's clear he's deeply troubled. Concerned, she decides to meet with the producer and share her story. However, before she can proceed, Yeol shows up and drags her away. Furious, he tells her she's being reckless and putting herself at unnecessary risk. Yeon-do argues back, saying she can't just ignore what's happening. She points out that Teacher Yang was brave enough to stand up to the school's corruption, so why shouldn't she? Yeol counters that nothing will change, so there's no point in trying. Frustrated, Yeon-do accuses him of being too afraid to take a stand, just like the adults he claims to despise. Her words hit Yeol hard, leaving him speechless. At home, Yeon-do's mother urges her to stay quiet and avoid causing trouble. Though conflicted, Yeon-do agrees, promising to stay out of the situation for her mother's sake. The next day, the producer approaches Yeon-do again, but she declines, remembering her promise to her mother. Feeling down, she meets Dongjae, who offers her strawberry milk to cheer her up. However, Yeon-do doesn't feel she deserves it and turns it down, her guilt and frustration weighing heavily on her. We finally meet Ha-jun's father, who visits with Principal Choi after a school meeting. He smiles as he reports that apparently Ha-jun won't be eligible for the school they chose for him, but Principal Choi looks nervous. Of course, it's just a Cheshire cat grin, as later Yeon-do accidentally witnesses him beating the shit out of Ha-jun in the parking garage. From around a corner, she calls to Ha-jun, which makes his father stop, for now at least. Yeon-do shows herself, and Ha-jun, bleeding from the mouth, walks away without a word. But she sees Ha-jun sitting alone in the school cafe later and asks if he's okay. He tries to storm off, but she stops him and presses some ointment and a bandage into his hand, so you won't be hurt. Before she leaves, she says that she's more loyal than he thinks, and she won't say anything. During her next meeting with the Bae-ko kids, Yeon-do doesn't even try to get them to practice, even when they ask her if she's given up. Yeol looks frustrated, but it's Ha-jun who stands up first and asks what he has to do, about cheerleading or whatever. But later, when he sees Yeon-do running through the rain without an umbrella, A new expression crosses his face. "Oh no, please don't fall for your best friend's girl." Yun-do runs into Teacher Yang and apologizes for being too cowardly to give an interview, even though it would help him, but he forbids her to give an interview, telling her to study her math if she wants to help him. He says there are 2 things she should find to survive in school: friends you do anything with, and adults who will be on your side no matter what. Yeol watches the rain and thinks of a conversation he had with Ha-jun, where Ha-jun had said that maybe Yeon-do is right. He'd hoped she's different than the rest of them. It reminds Yeol how Yeon-do had said he was like the adults he professed to hate. As Yeon-do practices the choreography for her mission, the rain continues. Someone drops an umbrella outside the room for her, and we see Ha-jun walking back to his dorm, umbrella-less and getting soaked, but smiling. Yeon-do takes a break and finds the posters she made way back when protesting the injustice of Real King getting shut down. It reminds her of how Teacher Yang has supported her at every turn, and as she leaves, she's too preoccupied to notice the umbrella Ha-jun left for her. She sits to wait out the rain, and Yeol finds her, though he denies having come here to give her his umbrella. But he does sit with her and apologizes for saying it was useless for her to get involved. She counters that he was probably right, and that she can't help Teacher Yang after all. She says that even though she seems happy all the time, she often feels bad for her mother and powerless before the teachers. She doesn't know what to do with her future, so Yeol says to do what she wants now, what her heart says instead of her head. That cheers her up, and she rewards him with a sunny smile in spite of the rain. Yeol offers her his umbrella but declines to use it with her. If he's alone with her under an umbrella, he may get himself in trouble. The next day in class, Yeon-do's mind races as she remembers little bits and pieces of conversations, and it suddenly hits her. Teacher Yang is the whistleblower. Principal Choi comes to get him out of class, and he seems to know that this is it. So does Yeon-do, and she rushes out to stop them. She says to Teacher Yang that she already found friends she would do anything with, but she just found the second thing, an adult who would be on her side no matter what. With tears in her eyes, she bows and thanks him. She heads outside and finds the producer and his cameraman still on campus. She runs to them and breathlessly says that she'll give an interview.